This dinosaur's sleeping. We're trying not to wake it up. I'm just kidding. We're waking it up. Guys, David, Express Auto, we're back. We've got a transmission to play with today. It's been a long day. It's been a stressful day. I'm tired. I really don't want to train it right now, but by golly, we're going to train it. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. The subscribe thing goes along with the giveaway. If you guys have forgotten, we get to 1,000. We're going to give some stuff away. Don't know what. Well, we kind of know what, but not all of it. Anyway, we'll get there. So today we are working on a C4. This thing, in my opinion, is a dinosaur. I don't do a lot of C4s. They're not called, or I don't get a lot of calls about C4s. Whenever I first got into the transmission industry, like 12, 13, 14, 15, however many years ago it was, we still did a few of these things, but they weren't even popular then. And they've gotten way less popular now. And I have guys ask me all the time to build them, or I used to have guys ask me all the time to build them, and I didn't enjoy it then, but I enjoy doing them a little bit more now than what I used to. So it's a different change of pace. It's something they have to think about. It goes back to the mentality of how transmissions were originally invented and designed and how they work and why they work. The hydraulic theories behind them are kind of neat. But all that being said, this is C4. It's out of a 64 Galaxy. Is that what we said earlier? I think it was a Galaxy. Yeah, 64 so. Galaxy. This vehicle belongs to another shop. It's actually Jeff's Auto Repair. I think he's in Jane, Missouri, or he's somewhere. I don't know. He's not here. Car's not here. Don't know what it looks like. Don't honestly care. What's important to me is what's inside of this thing. So we're gonna take it apart and see what we got. We were told it's the original transmission. I did not grow up in the era to know if this is the original transmission. I know that it has a bolt-on bell housing that goes straight through the pump into the case, which I think, if I remember right, that's the early stuff. And I know it has the small shaft, input shaft, so that it's definitely got to be an early one. It's got to be mid-60s somewhere. So if this is truly a 64 and it's in the first generation of 64s and it's original, I would be really freaking surprised. But it'd be neat. It'd be neat. If a Ford could live that long, man, somebody's winning. Let's take it apart. Can't talk too bad about Ford, guys. I like Fords myself. They're fun. Fun to work on. Alright. Gotta go back to the standard sockets. I don't even hardly ever use these guys, but we'll use them today. Get around some of this dirt.
That's antique dirt.
This is antique dirt, you're right.
Probably
worth some money. I could put it on eBay.
This training's worth more like this.
Yeah,
That's
gently used one owner.
That's fossil fuel in that tranny.
Fossil fuel. The first dinosaurs really did come out. That's not good. There's water in that thing. You see all that water? He probably left it outside after he got done yanking it out and got some moisture in it. That's all right. We're gonna take it apart anyways. I haven't done one of these things in a couple of years now. It's gonna be a little goofy. Might take us a minute. Find all these old standard sockets. I cannot believe that I've about thrown all of these out because I don't ever use them anymore. But that's okay. Get the governor off of there. The only complaint that the owner had of this transmission was that it was leaking fluid profusely from the shifter shaft seal and the dipstick tube and the front seal and the rear seal, and I think the pan gasket may have been seeping is what he said. I think the whole thing just needs to be gone through, but he just wants a reseal. I'm like, no, we're gonna open this thing up and just do it all. So continue on the teardown. that goofy bell housing off of there. See what we got inside of it. All right, let's get this pump off of here. It appears to be stuck. That's okay, I got a hammer. All right, getting down to the good stuff now. Make sure there's not one of those fancy bolts in there. Ew, it peed on my bench. This thing may have been sitting outside longer than he said. Hold on. Didn't we get like 10 inches of rain last weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Missouri got more.
yeah, I bet this thing was just laying in the bed of his truck all weekend long, just waiting to come over.
Drowning.
Drowning back. What a poor dinosaur. First it gets extinct and then it gets to drown once it's brought back to life.
That's how you treat the elderly.
That's just not right. Alrighty. We gotta take all these bolts out of here. We're gonna cheat. Nobody tell anybody else we're using a 13 today. Alright guys, said this before, I'll say it again. You guys didn't hear it the first time. Your transmission pan, unless it was made by Chrysler, does not need silicone. There should not be silicone coming out of the pan bolt holes on your transmission pan. If it was made by Chrysler, we'll have a different talk. Chrysler has their own silicone, and like pan gaskets, your Ford did not come with silicone. So, get you a gasket. Get that thing out of our way. All right. I think those are technically a 7/16, but we're going to use an 11 today because, well, I don't keep a 7/16 on the bench anymore. Dinosaurs quit roaming the earth, so what are you going to do? Take that modulator off of there too. Well, that ain't gonna work. Gonna have to find me a thin wrench. Guys, we'll be back in a minute. I gotta go dig through a toolbox to see if I can find my old thin wrench for the modulator. In the early days of transmissions, they like to use modulators instead of a electronic pressure solenoid. So, I mean, it worked. The new stuff is way better and way cooler and awesome and stuff, but I mean, it does work. So we'll find us a wrench and we'll take that thing off of there. All right, found our old wrench here, and it's a Sears 3/4. If you guys are wondering, I don't honestly know where this wrench came from. I think it was a garage sale years ago, but either way, it's still a good wrench. So get the old modulator out of there and we'll yank that valve body off. But we won't, not until we take out that last bolt. It's like, hey, why isn't that thing moving? If you don't take all the bolts out, it don't come out. Alrighty. Continuing with the theme of old school, we still have, we've got a front band and a rear band, sun shell. We're going to take our servo cover off and pop the servo out, take the band adjustment out, and pop the pump out. Move this thing around a little bit. And continue moving. Let's grab the red socket. That tag you can scrape off and clean up and identify the exact year it came out, but I'm not gonna do that right now. It's definitely got some of that metal stuff in there. I'm gonna go ahead and bet that that seal is hard as a rock. How much you want to bet? Let's poke it. Oh no, surprisingly soft. Look at there. Maybe somebody's been in this thing. I'm sure somebody had to have been, right? Roll that dude around here. Wipe the history off of my hands and continue moving forward. Get over here, you. Alright, now we've got that stuff out of the way. Grab our handy dandy screwdriver. The pump does not want to pop out of there. We may have to put a pump puller on there. Yeah, we'll use a pump puller. Alright guys, found our pump puller. This one seems to be a little stuck, so we're gonna use the pump puller to pull her out of there. I make power tools for this. Probably ought to grab one, but old handy dandy ratchet works pretty good. Super speed. Come on. Get him back up. There it's coming. I was like, man, that one is flat stuck. Been in there for a day or two. Forgot what the free world was like. Being a fossil. That's it. We'll get it out of there. The main reason I took this particular C4 in, because I don't put very many of them in that call me anymore. A lot of them are guys trying to do hot rod stuff and they think you can put a whole bunch of horsepower through a C4. And I don't personally feel that way. I think if you're gonna make big power, you should have a big tranny or a bigger tranny or better tranny or an actual transmission that lives under power. I mean, these things will take some abuse, but the power guys are playing with now, I mean, we've got a car in the shop this morning that made 1,200 horse on a stock daily, or on a daily driven car. So if you're gonna be building a hot rod, you don't need a C4. Just don't need it. But this one's in a stock Galaxy, and the gentleman that owns this particular stock Galaxy is planning on driving this thing across the country to Montana. And I know you guys can't see us on a map, but Kansas to Montana, a little bit of a gap there. So he wants to make sure that it's gonna live and not gonna puke all of its fluids out the whole drive. So get some of these parts out here and we'll talk about it a little bit. A whole bunch of pieces. My fingers aren't strong enough to pull the planetary out. Oh, the planetary! Alrighty, so let's go over this a little bit. We'll start at the front. We took off our direct drum. Direct drum is third and a combination of reverse. It takes part of reverse. It enjoys to party as much as it can, so it likes to come on in 2 gears. So we'll get the snap ring out and see if we can see what our clutches look like.
Is this supposed to have that right there?
Yeah, that is a split style bushing. That is not really a normal bushing you see a whole lot anymore. At least I didn't think so. We're starting to see them in the 10R80 converter issues, but that is a original style bushing. Get this snap ring out of here. Come on! So we have a 4-clutch, direct clutch. They don't look terrible, but they've definitely got some heat to them. Old waffle clutches. Now I'll move on to the forward clutches, and I'm gonna say this thing's either had some forward clutch issues or been really cooking stuff here. You guys can see the heat checking on the top of that pressure plate. That is definitely not a good sign. But if it's been rebuilt, somebody could have flipped the plate over and sent it home. So, yep, we got some blackness to our clutches. It's been rebuilt. Somebody flipped over that plate and reused the other side of it, but definitely gonna need some clutches. So, luckily the Belleville spring's not broken. Doesn't look like the piston's hurt. So, that's always a good sign. These C4s are getting harder and harder to get parts for. You can't just call your local guy and say, "Hey man, I need this and this and this," because well, the mom and pop's parts stores quit selling this stuff a few years ago. By a few, I'm talking probably 10, 15, 20. But been a day or two. So, pop the snap ring out. Look at this piston. I'll move on to some planetaries. Get that thrust washer out of there. She's definitely seen better days. Got one heck of a groove worn that piston. Darn. Boys, that is not a good sign. Looks like we were gonna have to get us a piston. Drum feels okay. See if that lip seal's hard as rock. Yep. It's got a little bit of rubber to it, but it ain't a whole heck of a lot. Surprised it doesn't just break right in half. But, well, let's start on some planetaries. So, with the planetaries on a C4, C4 is not really a monster transmission. It's not real big and wasn't ever in anything heavy. So, it's not like your Turbo 400 where it's got giant planetaries. The planetaries are similar to a Turbo 350 as far as the construction and the overall size of them. But they are only a 3-pinion planet, so not really a whole lot of surface area there to keep one alive. Now, we're going to pop this rear ring gear out, pull our rear drum out of there, rear band, and pop the rear servo out. Sorry guys, I'm getting all excited and choked up about how much fun we're having here. Looks like we may have an issue down inside of this guy though. Looking at the end of that output shaft, looks to me like something's been getting a little squirrely in there. It's not supposed to be recessed like that. Explains where some of this metal's been coming out of. Definitely keep seeing a bunch of metal. All right, snap rings out. Pull our output shaft out. Get you guys a little bit better of a picture view there. You can see the surface area, and you can see on the end of that shaft, the golding right there. That shaft has been pushing down into the end of that output shaft. So either we've got an end clearance problem, we've got a converter problem, or we may have too much thrust in the motor. I don't know what engine's in this thing, but there's only a few explanations of how you can get this type of an indentation onto the end of this shaft. And it's either A, something is pushing this way and this end of the shaft is contacting its stop at the end of the inside of the torque converter, or B, the converter is pushing inward, causing it to drive against this output shaft. This snap ring that we just took off would keep the shaft from being able to be pushed out any further, so the pressure from the converter down would cause it to eat back there. being that I don't see any sign of it chewing the governor, I don't think the shaft has been drifting forward. I think this shaft has been pushing backwards. So I think he's either got a converter issue or a flywheel issue or flex blade or thrust in the motor. Too much thrust in the motor can actually just sit there and drive the crankshaft rearward, causing this problem. So we'll talk to the customer about that one before we put this thing back together, because he's definitely gonna need one of these. And these things don't grow on trees no more. We can't just go get one out of the shed. So may have to make some phone calls to some guys, find some stuff. Inside of here though, we still got some other parts playing with. Get that rear ring gear out. Got a thrust washer on the back of it. Much like the rest of the planetary system in this thing, it's got thrust washers everywhere. You've got one bearing down inside of the front planet, but everything else is thrust washers. Guys that are building these things for performance like to take that thrust washer and take the thrust washer off of there and change them over and machine the face of this planetary down and machine the back of this collar down to put a bearing back there. Helps support the rear of the case. Whew. Antique-y. Just looks like fun, doesn't it? Old style Sprag with a spring and roller system. That Sprag system is still in use today, but C4s, all of those pieces fall out. When we flip this guy over, everything's gonna hit the bench. If we don't take the time to sit here and pop the race out and pop each individual roller and each individual spring, that thing's gonna fall out. So one thing that you guys should do if you're doing one of these things at home, take a scribe and reach in where the direction of that is. If you want it to rotate, so we know that it rotates to the right and locks to the left because of the way that the springs and rollers are. You can look at the ramp right here. The ramp gets fatter, so the roller is allowed to move back, so the inner race is allowed to move forward. So we're going to take a scribe, we're going to put a line up here, put another little line, and by golly, we have an arrow. So we have a point of reference to know that this guy is going to spin this direction. This drum that we just took off does not contact this surface, so that scribe mark will be there for the rest of this dinosaur's life. So, since we don't do these things as much, and I can't remember all Sprags off the top of my head, I like to mark them. So I want to see if we can't get all these rollers out of here real quick. Alrighty. Springs and rollers. Definitely are going to have to replace all of those. Those springs are, I think, about wore slap out. They're not broke though, which is surprising, but definitely going to have to put some new springs in here. Get all these little parts and pieces out of here. Get the ant off of my finger. It's like going fishing. But at least I'm catching something.
That ain't right.
Well, that's not how you go fishing?
The catching part.
Oh, no, that's right, that's right. We never catch nothing when we're fishing, but that's okay.
We try.
I can catch stuff in the transmission shop with a magnet, so I don't mind. Get all these little doodads out of here. And finally, we're going to rip this thrust washer out of the back. That thrust washer is the last washer into this case. Pop this servo cover off and see what we've got in the reverse servo. No! Come back here, suckers. Alrighty. Uh-oh. That's not supposed to be there. Should not have rust on your servo. And you should be able to move the rubber on the piston, so definitely going to need one of those too. That pin is wobbly. So Alrighty, outside of tearing the linkage off of the side of it, I think this thing is about as many pieces as it needs to be. Whoa, no, never mind, hold up. Somebody forgot to take the band out. You cannot put a tranny in the parts washer with a band still in it. Pop this guy out of here real quick. Yep, gonna need a band as well. You think it ate the pump? We'll probably have a look.
What's the piece on the back of the case? The bottom.
Oh, the governor support.
Oh,
That
it's just
part
support.
right there. Yeah, that is the governor support. We gotta take that thing off too. Man, I am trying to put the camel before the horse all day today, aren't I? It's not coming off. We need a screwdriver. There it is. Come here, you beautiful screwdriver. Ta-da! Parking gear. Dust washer. That is it. You can take those bolts out, and the Sprag race that we played with earlier will come out of there. Get the parking pawl out of the way. By golly, I think that's all of it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right. Well, I said let's take this pump apart real quick. All righty, there we go. Take some of these bolts out of there, bolts out of here. Bolts, bolts, bolts. Well, that fell down faster than I expected it to.
Same. I did not think it was going to drop like that.
Yeah, usually they get stuck and you gotta sit there and monkey with them. Huh. No real wear on the pump or on the stator. That's surprising. So, not too bad. Well, guys, we've had a lot of fun tearing the C4 down. As always, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch our stuff and check out the goofiness that seems to happen in here. But we've got to move on to the modern era. We've got a Dodge out there that somebody stuck some C4 in the transfer case and then just exploded its guts all over the highway. So we're gonna get that thing yanked out and see if we can't show you guys the carnage of a poor Dodge and its drive shaft and transfer case problems. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks again.